How's it going, everyone? Welcome to a new vlog. We're down 250, so not the best start. We were playing 1-3 for about half an hour, got it all in, lost, made a little bit of it back, and they called it in for 2-5, so we add on to $1,000, head to the table. To begin with, we're not in the best seat since none of the good ones were available, but don't worry, they will be pretty soon. First hand aim, we have king queen off in the button, hijack and cutoff limp. We make it 25 and only the cutoff called, so heads up to a flop. Flop comes 9, queen 7, so top pair, king kicker. He checks, we c-bet for 25, and he pretty quickly folds. Not a big pop, but it's always nice to win the first hand we play on the table. Next hand, we have ace king off in the low jack. We make it 15 and get the button, small blind, and big blind to call, so we go 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes 4, 4, king, so we have the best hand unless somebody has a 4, since I don't think there should be any pocket kings here. And I decide to check the pot control since we're against the widest range, the button and the blinds. They could have plenty of 4s. I really just have ace 4 suited or maybe 4-5, but I don't raise that often from the low jack. So yeah, I decided to pot control and check, and the button checks too. So 4 ways to a turn. Turn is a 10, and now small blind bets $30. That seems pretty strong since big blind is still left to talk. That's always checking the flop, so he could still be pretty strong. He's not though since he folds. It's on to us, and I decide just to call. I still have the river to give value if he has a worse king, and I don't want to blow the pot just in case he has a 4. So that's what I do. Button folds, heads up to a river. River's an ace. That seems good, but I'm not loving it since I'm still beating most of the hands I was beating before and still losing against 4s, and that may kill some action. And he does check, so he looks pretty weak. He may have a missed flush draw that's folding anyways. I want to try to get a call from a 10, and kings are usually calling anyways. So I make it $30, and he pretty quickly folds. So yeah, we take it down. Ace king was pretty nice, but even better is pocket kings in the cutoff. We make it $15 and only the button call, so we go heads up to a flop. Flop is 6 deuce 3, so not great for our range. We're mostly going to be missing here, so I decide to check, and depending on his size, I'll call or raise, but he just checks back, so we go to a turn. Turn is a queen, and now we got to try to get some value. I bet $20 and we get the good news when he calls. River's a deuce, and that's a great card since most likely he has a queen, and I don't think he's going to be folding, so we're going to get greedy. We bet $75, and he pretty quickly calls, and we're good against queen 10 off. Okay, pocket kings in the cutoff was very nice, but what's even better? You said it, 7 deuce suited in the small blind. Under the gun 1 limps, low jack limps, button limps, it gets to us, and of course we're usually always folding here, but $3 to have the chance to win on video with 7 deuce. Let's do it. We call and big blind checks, so we go 5 ways to a flop. Our dreams to winning a hand on video with 7 deuce is drifting when a flop comes 7, king, 6. So yeah, middle pair, but 5 ways. I'm not going to be calling a bet just for a video. That's just going to be burning money. So I check, and thankfully it checks around, and the turn is a deuce. Let's go, 2 pair. Let's get some value. We make it $15, and we get the big blind, under the gun 1, and button to call, so 4 ways to a river. River is a 7, so yeah, we hit a full house with our 7 deuce. Poker gods rewarding our stupidity. I'm about to bet, but then I see under the gun 1, and it looks like he's gonna wants to bet himself. He's stacking up chips, and if you see my previous vlog, this is the older man, very nice guy, but crazy action. So I'm gonna be tricky. I check, it checks to him, and he does bet, but just $35. It folds to us, and yeah, I ain't gotta raise it up. I make it 150, and he smiles and pretty quickly folds. He told me later that he had king 2. So yeah, we got very lucky on the river because we were way behind, and I don't know if I could fold against this gentleman. So we were about to be punished for a bad play, but we did get rewarded, and we take it down. Okay, let's get back to trying to play good poker. We looked at a king jack suited in the cutoff. The low jack makes it 20, the hijack calls, and now we 3-bet to $80. I think a lot of players make the mistake of calling here because they feel like their hand is not too strong to 3-bet, and they're happy to see a flop since it flops pretty well. The thing is, if you call, you're going to incentivize people after you to call, and you're going to go 4 or 5 ways to a flop. And guess what? It's a lot easier to play poker against one player than against 4 or 5 because you could put them on a way tighter range. And if you just call, the flop could come out king 6 deuce, and someone could have king 6. And he's just going to get a bunch of money from you because it's so hard to play multi-way when everyone has a wide range. But anyways, it folds back, and the low jack and hijack call, so you go 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes king 8-3, so top pair, jack kicker. It checks to us, and we c-bet for $110. Low jack tanks for a little while. I wasn't sure if he was considering to raise or to call, but at the end of the day, he just folds, and hijack folds too, so we take down the pot. Few hands later, we looked at pocket kings once again. There's a straddle, so it's 2, 5, 10. Under the gun 1 makes it 35, and this looks super strong. I would be folding most of my hands because he's first to act, and this player usually limps. And one thing you gotta know, when a player limps a lot, his raising range is stronger than most. And why is that? Well, his weaker hands are always going to be limping, and that leaves the stronger hands in his raising range. But anyways, we have pocket kings. Of course, we're not folding and we're not calling, so we make it 105. It folds back to him, and I'm really just hoping for a call, because if he 4-bets, it's just going to look crazy strong. And he does. He makes it $400, and I'm just hating this spot. I just wish I had 3 deuce off and folded pre-flop. But the thing is, as well, I was thinking, the previous hand that I 3-bet was just 2 hands ago, so maybe he thinks that I'm just super aggressive and is 4-betting wider than usual. And as well, am I really going to fold pocket kings? He just has 250 behind, so calling doesn't make sense. So I do. I just put it all in there. He snap calls. I ask him, you got aces? And he says yes. But, you know, we got 18% chance of winning. That's almost 1 in 5. Let's see if we get lucky. Flop comes 3, deuce, deuce. Turn is a 4. River is a 10. So yeah, couldn't hit that 18. And we're down 650 from this hand. Okay, let's brush it off, focus, try to play our game. That becomes a lot easier when 2 hands later we have pocket aces in the big blind. Under the gun 2 limps, so does low jack, small blind calls, and we raise it up to $35. Now under the gun 2 that limped 3 bets to 95. And I'm just so happy I have aces here for 2 reasons. Once a limp 3-bet is such a strong range, it's like the previous hand. Usually it's a super old man coffee play with pocket aces that is so non-profitable since it looks so strong, just everybody folds. And the other reason, I just lost a big pot 2 hands ago, and a lot of people tend to go on tilt and just go crazy after that happens. And this player, he doesn't know me, and they didn't see I had pocket kings on a previous hand. So it could just seem like I'm going crazy. So I'm not calling. I 4-bet to $300, and he pretty quickly calls. Okay, we weren't able to crack aces, so poker gods, please don't let our aces get cracked. Give us a safe flop. Flop comes king, jack, 8. So yeah, not what I was hoping for. A limp 3-bet, call 4-bet is so strong, so it's mostly ace king, kings, queens, jacks. So we block ace king. So or we're way ahead or way behind in this spot. So I decide just to check, and he bets $300. And yeah, I don't think this is ever a bluff, but you know, just by the fact that he could be value betting with ace king here, I don't think I could fold, so I call. Turn is a 4, I check, and he goes all in. And yeah, once again, I'm not liking this spot, but it's just 400 more to call, and for the size of the pot against an unknown player, I don't think I could fold. So I call, and I feel a little better because he doesn't seem happy. So the river comes a 4. That's good in case he had king jack, even though I never put him on that. And he shows pocket 9s. So I guess I'll check on the flop. Just made him go crazy. We're feeling good, back in the green. We're looking at an ace queen suited in under gun 1. We make it 15, and we get the hijack, small blind, and big blind to call, so we go 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes ace, jack, 10, so we have top pair, queen kicker, and a gut shot. It checks to us, and in the moment I decided to check, I was thinking that they could have a lot of 2 pairs in their calling range. There's not that many bad turn cards since we have the queen, so the only card we don't want to see is a queen, since a king is giving us a straight. But at the same time, I think we should still bet. We could give value from a lot of worse hands that they're calling with, and people tend to place pretty straight up. So if they have 2 pairs, or if they have the straight, they're going to be raising most likely, and then we could just decide what to do from there. But yeah, in the moment, I decide to check, and hijack checks back. So 4 ways to a turn. Turn is pretty nice. It's a 9 of spades, so now we have top pair, straight draw, and the nut flush draw. So let's get some value. When it checks to us, I bet $35, and only the hijack calls, so go heads up to a river. River is a 7, so definitely not the card I was hoping for, and I think betting here would be too thin, so I check, and now hijack, the older gentleman, the one that's very action, makes it $100, and yeah, he definitely could have 8s. Thing is, this player bluffs a good amount of times, so it's hard to fold to him. So while I'm thinking, he tells me that he has 2 pair, and we get along, we play pretty often, so I don't think he'd be lying to me, so I do just fold. And he shows me jack 7 for flop pair jacks, turn flush draw, river 2 pair, and thankfully he was so kind that he helped us save $100. Next time we downgrade a little bit, we have ace queen off in the big blind. Under gun 1 limps, under gun 2 makes it 25, button calls, definitely a good squeezing spot. I do decide just to call since I first time playing with under gun 2, so I'm not sure what his range is, and I just wasn't in the mood to 3-bet to $125 and just build a huge pot out of position against an unknown player. So I go for a call, and under gun 1 calls as well, so we go 4 ways to a flop. Flop is very similar to the previous one. Ace, king, 10, so you have top pair, queen kicker, and the gut shot. It checks the under gun 2, he c-bets for $50, button calls, we call, and under gun 1 folds, so 3 ways to a turn. Turn is a 7, so shouldn't change much. It checks the under gun 2, and he keeps it going. He bets 125, button folds, and it's back to us, and yeah, not liking this spot. The fact that he gets 2 callers on the flop, and he keeps on betting on the turn just seems really strong. I don't feel like my ace-queen is good here too often, but he has range advantage, so maybe he just thinks both the button and me are weak and he's going to get us a fold since this board is way better for him, and we have a gut shot. So I call. Let's see a river. River is an 8. I check. He thinks for a little bit and finally checks back, so feeling good until he shows 10-7 suited. So he bet the flop with bottom pair and turn 2 pair. So yeah, now that I know he's raising pre-flop with such a wide range from under gun 2 with a limper behind, I'll definitely be 3-betting him. Okay, let's go back to the big blind with a hand that I'm very happy to call with, pocket 2s. The button makes it 20, small blind folds, and we call, so heads up to a flop. Flop comes jack, deuce, ace, so bottom set. We check, he c-bets for $15, and I think he's doing this with all of his range. I don't want to check raise here because this is definitely a better board for him, even though his range from the button is very wide. But still, I think if I check raise, it's just going to look very strong and I get most of his hands to fold. And I don't want to do that and take away the chance that he bluffs or value bets with worse hands, so I call. Turn is a king. I check, and sadly, he checks back. River's a 6, and I decided to check since I felt like most of the hands that will call a bet will bet themselves, and I don't want to take it away the chance of him bluffing, since with a king on the turn, if he just has nothing, he could definitely try to bet to get me off of a jack, since I'd probably be betting aces myself on the river. So yeah, with that in mind, I decided to check, and who knows, he may have a weak ace that just was pot controlling, or turn a king, that he's a pretty good player, so maybe he thinks he could get value from a jack that would be playing this way, but he doesn't. He checks back, we show, and of course we're good. All right, next hand we're going to cut off with king jack off. Under gun 1 limp, so we make it $20, and we get the button, small blind, big blind, and the limper calls, so we're going 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes 10, jack 5. It checks to us. We have top pair, king kicker, pretty good, but still 5 ways. I don't feel that great. And what I decided to do is bet on the smaller side. I make it $40, and my thought process behind this is they could definitely have jack 10. People call with pocket 10s, pocket 5s. The blinds are involved. And when people start calling behind, they call wider. So I think they could have 10-5 suited. So if they have one of those hands and I bet small, they're almost always going to be raising, being 5 ways, and I could find a fold. So that's what I do. And the button snap calls and under gun 1 calls. So we go 3 ways to a turn. Turn is a king. That's pretty good. Now we have top 2. We're beating ace jack, jack 10. The blind's folded, so I don't think 10-5 is involved anymore. We're still losing against the sets. And now queen 9 gets there, and if someone called with ace queen, that definitely could happen since I bet pretty small. It checks to me, and the button snap called on the flop, and usually that tends to go towards flush draws since they don't have to think about it. It's just an easy call. If you had 2 pairs, or maybe even ace jack, he'd at least consider raising, or if you had a weak jack, consider folding. But when it's just a snap call like that, it tends to go towards draws. So I don't want to give a free river the draws, so I make it $130, and I'll just see what to do if they raise me. That doesn't happen though, just a button call, so go heads up to a river. River is a 9. That looks pretty scary since any queen has a straight, but I don't think he has that unless he has a flush draw that has a queen in it. So I decided to check, and hopefully with his misdraw, he tries to bluff me off of my hand. That doesn't happen though. He pretty quickly checks back. And makes sense when I show my hand, he shows king 3 suited, so he did have a flush draw, but turned top pair of kings, and we take it down. All right, guys, get ready because this is one of my favorite hands I've ever played. I got ace king suited and under gun 1. There's a button straddle, so it's 2, 5, 10. I make it 35 and both the cutoff and button call, so we go 3 ways to a flop. Flop looks pretty good. 7, ace 4, so top pair, top kicker. We c-bet for $45, and they both call, so 3 ways to a turn. Turn is a deuce of hearts, so to go with a top pair, top kicker, now we have the nut flush draw. I keep the aggression going. I make it 130, and now only the button calls, so heads up to a river. River's the most beautiful card in the deck. It's the three of hearts, so we have the nuts with the backdoor flush. And I decided to bet small for two reasons. One is that's very likely he has a weaker ace, and three barreling looks very strong. And if I bet big, I think the most likely going to fold. So one hand, I'll get worse aces to call. Second reason is that this is a very scary river. Any five has a straight, and I'm most of the time not going to have a flush here, just have an ace, ace king, ace queen without the flush. And I want it to seem that I'm scared of that card and I just want to get the cheap showdown. And the button, he's been very aggressive, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's just been calling very wide, so doesn't have nothing strong, and will try to take advantage of this spot to bluff and just go crazy and go all in. So we make it 160. We put out the bait, and he tanks. He thinks and thinks, and in our mind we're just saying, please say it, go all in, do it, do it. And he does. He goes all in for $650. We can't call fast enough. And I tell him I got the nuts. So he mucks. And he later told me he was trying to get ace king to fold. All right. Session looking good. Next hand, we're in the big blind with 8-9 off. Undergun 1 makes it 15. Hijack calls. And for 10 more, why not? We call, so we go 3 ways to a flop. Flop is pretty good. 10, 9, 8. So we have 2 pairs. But still, there's a lot of hands. A lot of better 2 pairs and straights that beat us. We check. Undergun 1 makes it 15. Hijack calls. And calling felt a little too weak. There's so many draws, and Undergun 1 betting on the smaller side just felt pretty weak. And Hijack just called, so I felt like I was good. So I make it 55. Undergun 1 folds, and Hijack calls. Turn is a 3, and there's so many draws, so many bad river cards. I don't want to give him a good price. I make it 105. He thinks for a little bit, but ends up folding, so we take it down. Next hand, we have 7-5 suited. Not the best hand, but it definitely is in the button. We make it $15, and only the big blind calls, so heads up to a flop. Flop comes king 8-5 all hearts, so bottom pair 7 kicker on a monotone board. Not the strongest. And now big blind donk bets for $10. And yeah, I'm definitely not liking my hand, but this line is very strange. So when something's strange, I usually just call. So that's what I do. Let's see the turn. Turn is a queen, and now he checks, and definitely an interesting spot. I felt like mostly he was going to have a heart, and I didn't want to give him a free card, but still betting with bottom pair 7 kicker felt super thin. So I decided to take a strange line. I made it $10 again, just like he did, and he calls. River is a deuce, so no heart. He checks, and I'm happy to check back, and we're good against 7-6. So he had an open-ended on the flop, plus the 6 high flush draw, so he missed it all, and our 5 is good. Now looking down at ace king off and undergun 1. We make it 15. We get the low jack and cut off the call. Now the big blind makes it 85. If it was a small blind, I'll definitely 100% be for betting here since the ranges are wider for 3 betting in that spot. Being the big blind, I just felt like people are happy to call here and see a flop. But at the same time, there's 2 players after me that call, so he's definitely more incentivized to 3-bet with dead money. So I do go for a call. I definitely think the best move would make it 200, and if he does jam, well, we could reconsider then. But yeah, in the moment, we call, and the 2 other players fold, so heads up to a flop. Flop comes queen 8-3, so not the best. Hands are beating like ace queen, king queen, if he's 3-betting with those, and we're losing against. So I don't see too many hands that we're winning against now, maybe ace jack suited. So he bets 150, that is huge for a c-bet in a 3-bet pot. And big bets like this, in a 3-bet pot, people tend a lot of times just to be aces and kings, just over pairs, trying to get value from a queen. We are blocking those, but they can still have it. It happens plenty of times. So yeah, no backdoors, no nothing. I don't think we could call here. So we fold, and that is the last hand of the session. So yeah, let's rack up our chips, head out, and see how we did for the session. That was about 7 hours. Alright, I don't know if you can hear this well. We're just leaving the poker room right now. I don't know exactly how much I'm up because I didn't want to count it in front there. I had more in my pocket. It was just kind of a mess. So we're going to wait till I get to the car and see how much I'm up. But definitely a crazy session, just back to back, being all in, and then later in the nuts. But yeah, let's get to the car. And we can see how much we ended up doing for a total of 7 hours that our session was. Let's do it. How's it going, guys? As you see, we're not in the car. The lighting was really bad, and it just felt kind of sketchy counting all the money in the parking lot. But we did make a pretty good profit, $1,140. So pretty amazing after starting down 250 and then losing that $1,300 pot with kings against aces. And actually, I wanted to share the hand that I lost, the all-in the 1-3, because it was very interesting. And basically, since I was playing 1-3, I was in early position with pocket eights. I made it $12. Low jack calls, hijack goes all in, but it is 45. And now that cut off cold calls, that felt super strong. So when it's back to me, I would consider just four betting and going all in myself, since I feel like the guy that went all in for 45 was pretty wide. So I'm happy just to get all in against him and get the low jack to fold. But the cutoff calling there felt very strong, and he had like 300 behind just like me. So I wasn't a fan of getting it all in against him. So I call. Now that low jack goes all in. And I know this player, he could do this very wide. So I'll just put on some pocket pairs. So cutoff folds, and it's back to me. And I think for a little while, and I was telling him, I just think you have pocket pairs. I just don't know. I told him I have pocket eights, and I don't know if they're better or not. I think it's kind of like a flipping a coin. I think you're doing this with almost all of your pocket pairs. I know this player. I played a lot against him. So with all the dead money already in the middle, since the one cutoff called 45 and then folded, plus my 45 that already invested, I just don't think I could have folded, especially knowing this player. If it was an unknown, when someone just calls and then jams on top of a 3-bet, it's usually super strong. But yeah, I know this guy, so I call, and he ended up having 9, so we got unlucky that he was on top of all pocket pair. Funny thing, cutoff had pocket kings. And he folded, so I was right. He looked strong, and I think that just happens sometimes. He looked like a new, young guy. I never seen him before, so I think he was just giving a shot at playing poker, and maybe, you know, 300 is a lot of money, especially when you're not used to losing it. The more you play, the more you get numbed out. But yeah, when it's your first time, I feel just scared of monsters, and you just don't want to lose $300 pre-flop. So I understand, you know, of course you got to call. But yeah, so that was that hand. And thank you guys for watching. It was a pretty great session, a lot of action. It's always great when you're filming and you get a lot of action. And I'm trying to improve my vlogs every single week. Last one, there was a lot of difficulties. I rushed it and the audio was really bad. So sorry about that. But as you see, I got a microphone now, and I just bought another one since I want better quality than this one. And I'm getting a new phone. So audio's going to be better, film's going to be better, and I'm trying to make it. I will work on the editing too to make it more entertaining visually. So yeah, thank you guys. If you leave a comment, like, and subscribe, it helps so much. And I'll see you guys next Sunday.